Okay. Hey, good evening, everybody. Mark Gassert, Elevate Your Profits tonight, right here on this show. And we are live, by the way, on my end of the spectrum, Peachtree Corners, Georgia. I'm going to put it out there. Sorry, but it still is the peachiest place in the planet within metro Atlanta, Georgia, bar none. But we do have a very special guest, and um, his name is Ori Spado. I know a lot of you people know who he is. If you don't, you will very shortly. With that, I'm going to bring my cohort in crime in here, Tom Ginn. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Fantastic, Mark. It's a wonderful day, and I'm glad to be here. And I'm excited to participate with this interview today with the guest that you brought in for us.
Tom, I'm just going to get into it real quick. Ori, to me, is the epitome of a self-made man. I mean, this gentleman started out Rome, New York. His father, Joseph, worked at $35 a week, man, in a place called Revere Copper and Brass. If I'm sure Ori will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's a product of 13 children, man. So that is incredible. And his mom, Livia, was probably really creative in presenting all these meals to the family. But what I found really interesting is he started out his sales career as a newspaper boy, which is something near and dear to my heart. I've been there. And then he went into the Army in 1963. Ori, we salute you. Thank you for your service. Both Tom and I have served in the Army, so that's outstanding. And then he got involved being an insurance salesman. There's a company out there at the time called Combine Life, and there's a gentleman by the name of W. Clement Stone. So we may get into that a little bit with Ori on the good side. And then, everybody knows Ori. He rubbed shoulders with mob bosses like Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, John Gotti, Sonny Frances, Jimmy Cache, and there's a whole plethora of other people out there. I won't get into it, but this is, his book, and the book is, I'm going to hold it up so everybody can take a look. I've got a copy, The Accidental Gangster. We're going to find out what's so accidental about this. But one thing I love about Ori, he is a primetime candidate. He loves the underdog. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in the man himself. Ori, thank you for being here, sir.
My pleasure, Mark and Tim. Tom, it's an honor to meet two distinguished gentlemen such as yourself. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, Ori. And, you know, I always like to ask these questions. You started out, I was reading in your book about when you were a newspaper boy. Tell me, once you got into that, you went into the Army, then you went into the insurance business. So, what was that like did you ever meet W. Clement Stone?
Yes,
Okay, what type of guy was he?
he was just the type of guy you would expect him to be. He was a dapper, dressed very sharp,
Yes.
you know. And for those of people who don't know, it was W. Clement Stone that really got Napoleon Hill to Think and Grow Rich and put it together. Actually, I just hung up the phone with somebody, and for those of you that don't know, W. Clement Stone was the largest contributor to Richard Nixon,
Wow.
and it was my personal friend who picked the money up one time on Mr. Stone's yacht. He had to take a boat to go to his yacht and pick up a bag full of cash for Richard Nixon.
That is incredible. Ori, being around a guy like that, is that what like propelled you? Because I was reading here, you broke all sorts of records in the insurance game. In fact, I love baseball. I umpire. Cooperstown, man, you went out there and you tore it up. So tell us, how did you go about doing that?
Well, no, let's backpedal, okay? In Rome, New York, I began with the Prudential
Okay.
Insurance Company, where I became a leading agent and a member of the $1 Million Round Table.
Wow.
And I was extremely successful at a time in my life. I mean, I was just getting married, and I was always a hustler. During the daytime, I was in department stores talking to the clerks. In the evening, I'm knocking on doors if I didn't have appointments. Talking to husband and wife and selling insurance. And the late 60s, early 70s, I was making over $500 a week when the
Wow.
average person was making 150. So I never knew, you know what I mean? But it's just something. I've been a hustler all my life. I mean, here I am, 76 years old. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I've been up since 5 a.m. and I have not stopped all day today. So it's just part of my nature, my makeup, my mindset, and I'm an achiever.
Ori, I got a question on that. Being a hustler and that type of thing. So it may have negative connotation. I take it positive in that arena. Is that work ethic, desire, those type of things. Growing up, your family came from humble means, right?
Correct.
And what was the stimulating factor for you to, recognize that there's more, that you wanted to go after more? What was it about your young environment, and who influenced you when you were young to become that hustler, that person that wants to achieve more?
I'm going to have to say my father.
Okay.
I learned a lot from my father. I was in a small town, Rome, New York. And since I was a young age, I didn't want to be there. I can't explain it. Okay. I just didn't want to be there. And it wasn't until I was 13 years old and a friend of mine his family moved to Greenport, Long Island. And they invited me out there, and I spent a month during the summer. My friend Joe Fulgeri. And my parents, their vacation once a year, they saved for was to go to New York City to see a play. That was my mom and dad's biggest thing. And so when it was time for their vacation, when it was over, they picked me up in Greenport. And we stayed one night in New York City. It was my first time in New York City. There I was, 13 years old. I'm looking at those skyscrapers. I'm seeing the people, and just something overcame. And I knew I needed to be in a big city. And it's just something that's stuck with me all my life. And to this day, I mean, here I live in the middle of Beverly Hills. I like to hear the cars going by. I can look out my window. I see skyscrapers. So, it's just me and who and what I became. But at the age of 18, I joined the Army, and I ended up in Hawaii. And I knew I could never go back to that terrible cold winters that we had and so forth. I mean, I despise it.
Yeah.
And,
I couldn't ever go back to cold weather. I'm from California. I moved to Wisconsin. People say, you got to be nuts. How do you?
you would love, I just had to go back to my grandson's wedding, which was in Rome.
Wow.
And I stayed there. I was there 4 days. I couldn't wait to get back. But my daughter bought a camp up in Old Forge, which Tom looks like the guy who would really love it. Old Forge is up in the Adirondacks. Okay? And I went there for a day. Me and my cousin took a ride up. See some beautiful camp. She paid $350,000 for it. And But I got to tell you, I mean, it's not for me, you know. And whoever came up with the saying, you know, going camping for me is a night in a five-star hotel.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna go back to W. Clement Stone. He's been an influencer to me in his books and the things he's done. Think and Grow Rich. Um, I was introduced to that book when I was first in the insurance industry by my upline leader, and we studied that book. We applied those principles, and it sounds like were as influenced by that as well. The Think and Grow Rich. Did you get into that book?
Let me explain that there. In 1971, I moved out to California again. And I was out here for a little over a year. I owned a lot of real estate back in Rome. See, when I put in for a transfer with the Prudential Insurance Company, it was taking a long time. And I didn't realize it until later, because one day I was in my stockbroker's office. And like over 6 months had gone since I transfer in to transfer to Los Angeles with the Prudential. And my renewals were pretty good by that time. Every year I put my feet on the floor January 1st. I knew I had X number of dollars coming in. And I'm in stockbrokers, and the manager from John Hancock was there, and I mentioned how I wanted it and moved to California. And I said, I don't know what the hell's going on, but my transfer hasn't come through. And he said, you want a job in Los Angeles? He said, I'll get you one right now. I said, yeah? He picked up the phone. He said, okay. He said, you get to Los Angeles. He said, go to John Hancock, see Ed McClements. You're hired.
Wow.
And Ed McClements, his office was over here on Beverly, right near CBS. Actually, Griffith, what was his name? The talk show host.
Merv Griffin?
Merv Griffin. His office was right upstairs of ours.
Okay.
Now, what happened by me leaving the Prudential, I lost all my renewals and everything.
Yes.
So I was with the John Hancock, and I later found out that my manager, Sully Catadella, never put my transfer in.
Wow.
Because he thought I was going to forget about that I wanted to leave, because I was the leading agent and he didn't want to lose me. Will you believe that?
I can believe that. Sure.
Money doesn't talk, it screams, right?
Yeah. So anyway, I had to move back. I owed the Bank of Munich over $1 million. And I didn't have time to go sell an insurance policy and wait for approval and underwriting for 30 days. And I ran into this kid in a diner, and he told me about combined group of insurance companies. He said, you can make $100 a day and you put it right in your pocket. And so he introduced me as a manager, Gary Dente, and he hired me and sent me to Boston for 2 weeks. It was W. Clement Stone at a school in Boston as well.
Wow.
That's when I first was exposed to Napoleon Hill, and his book, Think and Grow Rich, was right behind me here. And when I read that book, what it did, I was actually doing everything in the book that he talks about, but he gave it names. You follow me?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. I read that. I read The Success System Never Failed by W. Clement Stone. I got that here. I must have given 100 Think and Grow Rich books out in a lifetime to different people.
Sure.
But that's what it did for me. And so I was with a company for maybe only about 6 months. And one day I was ready to quit. The first week on the field, I did good. The second week on the field, I didn't sell nothing. And you work in different towns every week. And we were working the town of Little Falls, which was Herkimer and Little Falls, New York.
Right.
And we would meet at a diner every morning. Sort of like when I was a gangster in New York, we met at But
Oh my goodness.
listen, I waited for the meeting to be over and I went and I told Jerry, I gotta get out of here. This ain't for me. And Jerry looked at me, he says, yeah, well, I figured you were gonna quit. He says, you can't sell this policy. He says, you're used to selling big group insurance policy, all that big high life insurance and all calling on companies and stuff. Yeah. But he said, Ori, you're not a loser. You're a winner. He said, why don't you leave us as a winner? He said, listen, today, go work Furnace Street. Knock on every door. And he took out his business card, put a line here, you get 4 lines, put across how many people, doors I knocked on, how many people I spoke to, how many doors I got in and I sold. Well, by the end of that evening, I sold 100 policies.
Wow.
Now you gotta remember these policies were only $6 for 6 months. All right. I sold 50 policies. I'm sorry, on Furnace Street. And went home that night. I was high as a kite. And the next morning we meet. He said, Ori, I'm going to give you the business district. And when you got to work the business district, you got to walk in the stores, talk to the clerks, sell everybody in the store. By 5 o'clock that afternoon, when all the stores were closing, I had already sold 50 policies, but you were not allowed to go work anybody else's territory unless you got permission from them. And I'll never forget, there was a coffee shop, Dandy Donuts, I think it was. In there, and I see this guy, Joe, who was one of the salesmen with us, come around the corner, and I waved him. And the guy said, come have a cup of coffee with me. I said, where'd you work today? He tells me the street. I said, how'd you do? He said, I didn't sell a goddamn policy. They're all deadbeats. I didn't want to go home. I said, you mind if I rework your street? He said, what are you, crazy? He said, I knocked on every door. I talked to everybody. You're not going to sell nothing. I said, Joe, you mind if I work? And I said, I got money. He said, yeah, go ahead. Well, guess what? I sold another 50 policies. But it was getting too late at night. I was looking for lights to be on. And not every house, because I'm telling you, it was late at night. And when you got to sell 100 policies in a day, you got to call Chicago. And they rang the cowbells. It was a big deal. And I knock on this door, and this guy comes to the door, and he's laughing like crazy. He said, you realize what time it is? I said, yeah. I said, but you don't understand something. I said, you got to buy my insurance policy. He says, this guy was an assemblyman or some state, something with the state of Albany, a political thing.
Oh, wow.
He said, I don't need insurance. I said, no, you don't understand. I said, you're going to let me in your home. I said, you're going to buy my policy. I said, because I got to sell 100 and I only got 98 right now. I said, so each policy, you sold them 2. I said, so you're going to buy my policy and then I'm going to use your phone. He looked at me and he's laughing he says, come in. And I came in and boom. I sell him the policy and then I said, where's your wife? And she was in the kitchen. I said, bring your wife in. I want to sell her one too. So I wrote up his wife, and this guy just shook his head, writes me the check. I used his phone, called the office, and it was a big deal. You know what I mean? And then the final week was we worked Cooperstown, New York, as I state in my book. We broke all records. I won an award. We all went to New York City to the New York Hilton. where W. Clement Stone presented me with an award and we had a party and so forth. And it was quite a nice thing. And that's when I got to meet W. Clement Stone. It's not like he and I were friends and hung out, but
Wow.
That's
What a
incredible.
what a great story. Just the determination, the desire. What was the desire that you had to press to do that? I mean, what was it that was causing you to press to that level of commitment?
I always liked money. I always spent a hell of a lot of money. That's been my problem all my life.
Hey, Ori, can I hop in here? There are people that are like, I got to let you know, you got people out here hollering. I'm sorry, but Randy Chafee wanted to say hello. I'm just going to show you the names. That's Randy. Scott, uh, 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 Rickard says hi to you as well. Geez, uh, gee whiz. Yeah, here it is. He's like, hey, Ori. Gloria Brown's like amazed that you led the lifestyle you did. We got the pontificator of deep thought, Robert Brooker. He's saying hello. There are people out here, they know who you are. Ron Goodwin, he has his own business. He's in the graphics design business and anything else that involves face-to-face marketing. He wanted to know, I guess, if the checks cleared when you got all these policies. Did people pay you cash or check, or how did that roll? I mean,
Normally both. Thank you everybody, and thank you all for your kind words. I appreciate that from my heart.
right. Tom touched on something, and I think I can kind of relate. He mentioned about humble beginnings. Is that what drove you, Ori? I mean, like you saw your dad hump it every day and do what he had to do to provide for his family. One thing you mentioned in the book, you mentioned about your dad, and your dad was a man's man, and he taught you how to become a man, and you talk about that in your book, which I think throughout all your escapades here that you've done on the wrong side of the law and the right side of the law, you always talk about family, how important that was to you. Is that what he taught you?
Yeah, definitely. When you said it wasn't 13 siblings,
Oh, I'm
okay?
sorry. I'm
All
sorry.
right. I had five siblings beside myself. There were six, but my mother cooked for 13 because we lived in a duplex, and my grandmother and grandfather and my aunts and uncles lived next door.
Okay.
And by the way, all
Well,
my uncles on that side, they
same
were
same
all
difference. She was cooking
same.
for 13, man.
She cooked for 13. It was,
Wow.
yeah. And, my father was a quiet man. My father was not a guy back in those days. People do not know how bad the Italians really had it in this country. Nobody knows. It's going to be told very soon because my writer is working on a script about it. If somebody called my father a Whopper Guinea, you can guarantee they went to the hospital afterwards. My father had arms like I can't believe. Had to be from working in Revere the way he
Right.
worked and so forth. But I mean, I sat next to him at the dinner table. I remember looking at those arms every night.
Did that make you think twice of standing up to your father? I mean,
My father had a barber strap.
oh Lord.
When one of us would mess up, he'd pull out, and everybody, we'd all be scared as hell. All right. But I tell you what, and I never saw my father hit any of us with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'm going to ask you, like, once you ventured on, you were in the insurance business, and I'm going to digress a little bit. Then you got creative, what I like to say creative. You are a creative showman in my book. just reading this book. And then you kind of went, what I don't want to call it the dark side, but I don't know what else to call it. You went the other way and you figured out ways to make money. And even when you were in the military, I'm not going to mention what you did, but you know what you did, or you can mention it. I don't care. But but you got creative on how to entertain troops and make dollars and all sorts of fun stuff. And then it just one thing led to the next. Did you find yourself just say, "Hey, I'm good at this," and what gravitated you towards that other side? I mean, I'm just curious.
I think it was a natural thing that came into my life. In my book, I mentioned, you know, my grandparents who we had dinner with every night. When my mother met my father, they were deathly against that there. Although Italian on both sides, my grandmother and grandfather DeMarco come from a different region in Italy than my parents and then my father. He come from Calabria. My grandparents came from Calabria. And it wasn't until my stag party that I learned that my grandfather was a made man, came over to
Wow.
the country as a made man with the Androgata. The boss in upstate New York was a gentleman named Frank Russo. And that's the reason that they did not want my mother to marry my father. But the marriage did take place. They later learned to love my father. And so I learned a lot about my grandfather. And then Frank Russo, his son, who became a lawyer, Frank Russo, he and I became very close. And slowly but and he knew everybody around the country. And slowly but surely, I mean, him and I were going to New York every week for a couple of days. We stayed at the Warwick, and there were always wise guys around. He's introduced me to this guy, that guy, and it was a slow grooming, as I call it, and it could happen to you unknowingly. Okay, but I did admire these people, and I met some really, really. I talked about it earlier today on another show. You know, I enjoyed it because, there was no bullshit about, hey, let's do business, sign a contract, we'll do that. No. You met, you shook hands, you did it, and everybody did what they had to do. And, all you had to worry about was keep your word.
And
You know,
Ori, that's what I was going to say real quick. You live by a code. When I say that,
yeah,
I say it respectfully, and that's what's missing sometimes. I know that it sounds antiquated, but you really live by a code. Now, I'm not going to endorse everything you did, and I know you explained in your book, you weren't proud of everything you did, but you still maintain that code. You kept your
correct.
word.
You got to
And
keep your word no matter what business you're in today. And, I find so much in the legitimate world today that people do not keep their word. And I don't know why. Don't say something to me and don't say yes and then not do it. Just say, hey, I don't want to do it. I can't do it or whatever. But don't tell me you're going to do it, because if you tell me you're going to do it, then I count on it being done. It's just type of, you ask me for something, it's going to get done. I mean, I'm working on a project right now for a former professional baseball player that later went on to build multi-million dollars of companies. And it's a big government situation with the Federal Trade Commission. And without me being as creative as I am, okay, he'd be on the streets today.
wow.
But I've been able to take that and turned it around, and the lawyers that I got they had to replace lawyers and everything, information that I'm able to find out, and people that I have throughout the country that can do certain things for me, legal things. Okay, all right. I mean, I'm just that person. I just keep going. Hey, number one, I'm not married. I don't have no steady girlfriend. I'm not looking for one. I'm looking for one that wants to come over once a week, maybe and cuddle a little. Okay, but I'm not getting married again. Okay, and I got 3 wonderful children. All of them doing well. My 2 boys are real men in their own rights, both very successful. My daughter, extremely intelligent girl. I mean, no man, and I'm a divorced father, so no man could ask for more than what I have, and I got 6 wonderful grandchildren. So
Right.
I'm a very blessed guy. And, do I miss my old life on the streets? Yes, I do. I miss those scores. But, with people, people watch, go to movies and it's glamorized. It's nothing like that, folks. Okay?
There you
And
go.
pretty young men or ladies who think about getting in the life of crime, then I strongly urge you, write me. You can get a hold of me on Instagram or my email account has been shown there, and I'll guide you out of it and mentor you along. Um, it's not what it was years ago. Never will be again. And it's not a life that people can endure anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to get caught, no question about it. You're either going to get caught and go to prison, or you're going to end up in the trunk of a car. Those are 2 choices you have.
And Ori, I got your contact info down here so people can see it. So, and there's
Yeah,
your email and
and they could purchase autographed copies at my website, or they can go to Amazon and several other borders. And
right.
borders. There's no more borders. Barnes and Noble.
All right, here you go. That's all right.
Yeah.
Tom, I know you got a question or two for Ori, so go for it.
I think once a person is clear on why they do what they do for the right reasons and purpose, you went off a little bit into straight, but you had some validation to fill a need and those type of things. And now your mission, if I'm not mistaken, is you want to be an influence of young people that can be swayed. Like you said, it's sort of like boiling a lobster, right? You put the lobster in the pot and you just gradually turn up the heat, and before you know it, they're cooked.
Right.
And that's the way a lot of people get sucked into anything. So your mission is, for my clarity and the audience's clarity, is giving people through, there's a different light to follow. Is that what your mission is today?
Yeah. Life is better doing the legitimate work. Either go to college, get an education, find a trade, but regardless, whatever you choose, I urge them to choose something that they love doing.
Yeah.
Because if you don't love what you're doing, then you're not going to be successful at it. And I teach them the proper mindset, the motivation, persistence, wears down resistance, what the mind can conceive and believe you can't achieve. And so, and one thing that, you read my book, you see, I had a lot of great sales organizations. And the reason for that is I'm a very good motivational sales leader. And the reason for that there is, in anything I ever done in life, I never asked anybody to do something that I had not personally done. So I was always able to show them, motivated, how they can make more money. And there's a lot of people today in this country that are independently wealthy because I trained them.
Wow.
I'm very, those kind of things make me very happy.
Yeah.
I'm going to share.
I think that leadership there is something I've embraced in my life when I had a sales organization, and I've managed in my own company of people and other companies' people. and I never asked my people to do something I hadn't done and not willing to do with them. You know, I roll my sleeves up and let's go knock on those doors. Let's make those phone calls together. So I think that's a principle that it's strong for anybody in leadership. Don't ask your people to do things you're not willing to do yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sharing your quote down here, Ori. I just it was you put it out there. Be grateful for what you have. Life is great. Succinct to the point, and that's you. You were doing a walk and talk, and you just said, here's what how I feel, and I just put that up there because that's you in a nutshell.
That's me. Life is great. You know, I'm blessed to be here. I know one question you're going to ask me: if I were able to change anything in my life, would I? The answer is no.
Very good.
Okay. As I say in the prologue of my book, this is my life. It was my destiny. It was meant for me. Everything I've done, good, bad, or indifferent, I take full responsibility for it. But it all brought me to what I'm doing today. And as the Los Angeles Tribune says, from accidental gangster to humanitarian.
Yes.
And so I'm very happy with what I'm doing today. And people write me that, you know, this past week in books. I mean, I sell books every day off of my website. But I mean, I had one lady out of the Bay Area of San Francisco, and I ended up talking to her on the phone. And one of the loveliest person you ever wanted to meet. I mean, it's amazing. And then she took my book and she was underlining things in yellow. I posted a picture of her with doing that there.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, she has purchased 4 books for other people that she knows. Today I went and I shipped 6 books out, 5 to one person, one woman. All right, bought 5 books for other people.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things that happen, and you know, I'm amazed, and I'm very happy that I'm able to be a positive influence on the lives of others and help people out.
I've got a comment on it again. Something you said that is. I never in this short time that we're talking, I've never heard anything about being a victim. You've taken responsibility for everything you've done, and too many people I hear out there today that they live a life of being a victim of some circumstance, but ultimately we have total control of the situation we're in today. If we don't like our circumstances, we can change them, right? And that's one of the things. Yeah.
There's only one person in control, everybody. That's you, yourself. You control. You hold your own destiny. Not your mother, not your father, not your brothers and sisters, or your best friends. You do. And if you don't realize that, realize it now. Because you can do anything that you want to do in life and live a happy life.
I do. Hey, here's an interesting comment. Now, this is by Robert Brooker. He says, "This is a sign of doing it right. I would not choose to go through the second marriage again, but I do like who I am now, and I'm still grateful that I can eat adversity for breakfast." So we all have those skeletons in our closet, and I think that's why I like reading your book. Ori, this book is really like a manual. It teaches you it's okay if you screw up, forgive yourself, and move on. You know, don't beat yourself up every day. And I have to ask your children, like with Anthony, Orlando, and Gina, they've got to be super proud of you. You know, here you're like a rock star now. What do they think when they see you at a book signing or you're walking around? You're more famous now than you were. Probably the FBI's looking at you saying, "I cannot believe this Spado guy. Look what he's doing."
You know, a lot of people probably are saying that there. As I told you, my grandson got married. And it's really funny that he married the daughter of the former chief of police. He's a really, really nice guy. One of the nicest people you ever want to meet. And he meets my cousin often at the golf range. They both play golf.
Hmm.
And he told my cousin, he said, imagine, he said, I was the chief of police. My son became a cop, and my daughter is marrying the grandson of a gangster. But I'm going to tell you, his whole family, after the church, and you all walk out of the church waiting for the bride and groom to come out, and people are coming up to me and want to take a picture with me. It was kind of embarrassing because this is my grandson's wedding. We're here to honor him and his wife. You know what I
Right.
mean? But people, and I could be having lunch here in Beverly Hills, and I eat outside at the patio, and people walk by and they see me and they stop and they know who I am. So yes, my life is totally different. I am a public figure, and but I don't let it go to my head or anything of that nature.
Right.
And what you read in my book is not everything in my life, obviously. And the first person to recognize that was Nick Pileggi, who wrote Casino and Goodfellas. And you noticed that he wrote a blurb on the back of my book. And there is a movie that's being developed right now. We already have a director. We got
Wow.
a great script. This writer was one of the writers. I went through a lot of writers out here in Hollywood. But this guy got it right. He spent countless of hours with me. His name's David Steno. Great kid, wonderful kid, wonderful family, a good family man, but he got it right. He spent time and he was able to intertwine my story with things from the book, but with many things that are not in the book. And so it's this is not your normal gangster movie because I'm not your normal gangster.
Sure.
Okay, I'm not somebody that was brought up in the life in Brooklyn and brought up on the streets of Brooklyn like so many of these guys. Okay, I come from a small town, ended up.
I wanted to say what I was really impressed was this like therapy for you. Like at the end of the book, you have these letters to people that you were associated with on the organized crime sector, and then as well as to your children. And then I love the one where you wrote one to the it was to our government in terms of our Constitution and how that could be changed and our scales of justice, how they're lopsided, lengthy prison sentences, and a prosecutor. I love that statement, a stepping stone to acquire a public office. And then you said both parties lie, and now you're not affiliated with a party to this day. You started as a Democrat, were a Republican, now you're kind of whatever. And is this true? My journey through judicial system, is that going to be a book at some time? Is that you're
Yeah.
actually going? Wow. So I'm sorry I'm ranting here, but there's so much to put out there that you've put into this book. But
Yeah, I
was that
got
therapy for you to write those letters? Was that a way to say, hey, I'm apologizing for what I did. I'm responsible for what I did. Is that why you wrote those at the end of the book and shared it with everyone?
well, some of those people that I wrote letters to are deceased.
Right,
Okay, such as Sonny Franche,
right.
Jimmy Conchi. My best mate and probably the best guy of anybody I knew was Joey Pyle over in
Joey,
London.
yes.
Yeah, and
You really liked him, didn't you? You stressed that in the book, Joey. You miss him a lot, don't you?
every day, Joey from London. We used to talk 5, 6 times a day. Before I ever went to London, I knew everybody. He'd be at a pub every night, And he'd get me on the phone and he'd put every single person in that pub on the phone with me. And Joey and I grew extremely close. And today, his son and I, his son is like my third son. And you're going to be hearing more about him. He's got books out also over there. But there's going to be a lot more about him, his father. And, you know, being around guys like I was around, some are better than others. But Joey Powell, he was like me. We can get more done with our brain than we could with a gun. And that's just how Joey thought.
And you always had an idea. And one thing you stressed in the book, when you all got together, even if you're on the left side of the sector of the law, I have an idea, everybody would perk up and say, go ahead. And they'd listen to the idea.
Right.
When you'd be at dinner, lunch, whatever, you and your pals would sit down and talk about, I have an idea. And then, you even mentioned here 1997 when that FBI agent told you, we're going to get you. In 11 years, it happened. And you mentioned in your book, they have the resources and you're not going to win. You mentioned it to what you're trying to develop a mentorship to younger people out there. Don't go this way because it's a one-way road to Loserville. You're not going to win. You're not going to beat the FBI. So,
look, and especially more today than when I was in.
Right.
Because today, everybody's got one of these in their hand. Okay? Everyone's got, the moment you do it, somebody's got a picture. If they don't have a picture, the store, the streets, particularly back in New York right now, they got lights all over, cameras all over the place. Okay?
Right.
You're going to get caught.
Yes.
Yeah, even going down the freeway, right? They catch you.
They catch you. They don't make it different. And 1997, he said, I will see the day you are chained, shackled, put on Con Air, and brought to Brooklyn. I laughed at him. At him.
Wow.
2008, 11 years later, he made it a reality.
Yes. And you talked about that when I think, was it Anthony that was there that watched you get incarcerated and you said, hey, I'll be out by noon. And then you realized, hey, I'm not coming back, man. This is it. They got me.
They showed me the paper and they said, drugs. I laughed at him. I said, I'll be out by dinner time. And it was 5 years later.
Wow. And Ori, with that, I'm going to interrupt you here. So, we could get into polyglycate, but you did a lot of things in developing multiple streams of revenue, on the bad side. And I don't mean to say the bad side, but that part of your life. And, did you come up with all these ideas like the, what was it, Yellow Pages? You were going to do that. I think one time you mentioned in the book you're almost set up by an agent. He brought you in there. There was a bank of phones, and then you realized, hey, man, this ain't the real deal. They're trying to set me up. So did people pursue you in a good way and say, hey, let's take a look at this type of business opportunity? I know it might have been a little shaky, whether it's insurance or whatever. Did you come up with all the ideas or? Wow. And then you went to Hollywood, and how did you become this fixer guy? I mean, you just seem to gravitate to that, like the entertainment. That seemed to be your forte.
It's not like I went to college to become that. What happened? I was close friends with Dino De Laurentiis from Wells Kirby. Dino had an office over here on Cannon Drive. And they were filming a movie, and an actor was causing it to go behind budget by not getting along with the director, thought he knew more than the director, which happens often. And they were pulling their hair out. They didn't know what to do. I said, let me go handle it. I said, let me go talk to him. And I did. And I resolved it. And, I'm able to resolve. I have a saying, if I can't resolve an issue in 15 minutes by sitting down with the people, then I failed. Okay? I'm not going to sit there and bullshit with you all day long about the weather, politics, your golf game. I don't care about those. I go into a meeting and we discuss what's at hand. And I'm going to get you two guys got a problem. I'm going to sit you both down. I'm going to let you talk. Then I'm going to let him talk. And then I'm going to make a decision. Who's right? Who's wrong? The same way we handle a sit down.
Yep.
Exact same way. And it's the way, and I've been successful at it. And I still get a call occasionally today.
Ori, I love what you're saying because there is a persona of who you are. No nonsense. Let's get to the chase. And otherwise, there's probably some consequences if we can't come to a decision. Is that sort of one of the things you see in the movie? Consequences.
I think my voice and my looks, and particularly the way I'm able to verbalize things at certain times. Okay, I don't have to tell them that I got an army behind me. Okay, I don't have to tell them certain things. They could look at me and figure it out.
Okay.
And I do.
Go ahead,
I
Mark.
do it. They could figure it out.
I hear you. Well, Ori, what we do on this show is we talk about multiple streams of income and as an influencer, what would you tell young people? Like, I know other direct sales organizations that are out there. There's a lot of different opportunities, home-based businesses. Like, you got out of prison, you were broke. Right now, there could be people struggling right now because of COVID, whatever the reason is. But we're using this medium right here, live streaming. There's all sorts of ways, as you would say, to make a buck. And, what would you tell a young person today, about opportunity and pursuing your dream, goals, objectives, whatever? What would you tell them?
Well, the first thing, as I indicated earlier, find something you love doing. And if somebody's inclined to go in sales, and I don't care what you do. Somebody sold this ashtray. Somebody sold this lighter. No matter what you feel or thought, somebody sold it. If you want to go in sales, find what product or service do you enjoy doing, and then go after it. But you got to remember, okay, in sales, I never took a salary in my life. Okay, always worked on commissions. You're going to make much more money on commission as you ever will as a salary. Right. But you got to work, and you got to be able to know that you're going to be sacrificing some time away from your family. Because you got to be out there doing it all the time. That's just my thought, my philosophy. I mean, if I was 18 years old and I would start my life over again, that I'd go right back. If I was able to get an insurance license, I'd go back in the insurance business right now. You know why? I loved it. Right. It was so natural. It was so natural for me. Knocking on doors, getting into a home, sitting at the table with a husband and wife and discussing their financial situations and so forth, and then resolving them. There was many years ago, before I went to prison, I got a friend from a phone call from a painting contractor. And every time I needed, I used to sell him so much insurance. Every time I heard he got another job, I went and I sold him annuity. I sold them more gun. You know, I mean, you think I'm a pain in the ass, right?
No, you're just straight up. You're straight
This
up.
guy called me up and he says, "You were a pain in the ass, and I thank you so much for it." He says, "I never would have been able to retire without you."
Yeah.
You know how good that is?
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
I do have to share something from Jay Jensen. If you ever go on LinkedIn, he does a lot of jokes and stuff, and he talks. He's a salesman. Jay sold probably 30 plus years, so you can relate to this. He said, "I remember when a DEA agent told me in my living room that how can you tell when a salesperson is lying?" He said when his lips are moving. So I said to him, "Hey, I heard that about you guys too." He said, evidently, DEA agents apparently do not have a sense of humor. So, and I think with you, that's what you did. You went out there and just had fun, man. You went out there and did your thing and threw caution to the wind, and some signed up and some didn't. Like when you're in the insurance business.
You know,
Go
yeah,
ahead,
where I was
Tom.
just going to.
I knew the day was going to come. I was going to be arrested for something. Okay. I just never thought it was going to be that.
You know, or you mentioned something there. When you love something, you're doing it for the right reasons. The rewards come back. You're more, that gentleman that you just mentioned, if it wasn't for your persistency or being a pain in the ass or what you want to call it, he through gratitude recognized if it wasn't for you, his life would not have been that opportunity to retire. And that's the greatest reward, not only the money you make, but that's even a better reward than when I've had clients that have come back to me for years and said, "Thank you, Tom, for staying in my face," basically, until I was able to make a decision. So
it's a great feeling, Tom, right?
It is. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's how we get our gratification.
Yeah.
There's so many ways, and when you're helping people out, okay, and it comes back to you. It comes back to you tenfold.
Exactly.
Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And I strongly urge everybody to do that.
That's a great point. I was just going to ask, since your children aren't ancient, you have Gina, Anthony, Orlando. Do they share like, "Hey, Dad, here's the latest things that are out there that people ought to look into as far as whether they're going to start a business on their own, do something online"? Have they ever talked to you about that? Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
My son in Florida, particularly, his name is Ori also.
Right.
And I mean, and here's a kid, if you look at his posts on Instagram, you would think I was the one posting them, because he's posting positive things every day. He's very, very successful. He's a premier pool builder in the Palm Beaches of Florida.
Oh, wow.
And he does very well. And I'm very proud of him. But, I remember, hey, we thought we were going to have a problem. He didn't want to do this, didn't want to do that. And then he got excited one day. I remember he got a job with UPS. Oh, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to have the benefits. After about 2-3 weeks, he says, "I fucking hate this." And they quit. And they quit. But the old saying, every adversity has a seed to be fully equivalent. What happened was his cousin was in the pool business. And he was well known, but he worked for another contractor. And that contractor went out of business. So his cousin was out of work. Now, his cousin is a worker, good worker, okay? But he's not the business type of person.
Sure.
His son recognized that, and that's how he put together a pool business with his cousin. And they became very successful, and they're both millionaires. So,
wow.
it worked out. You follow me? You know, my son here, he does what he does. He's extremely good at it. My daughter, my little princess, she is the director of the Abraham House, is called,
That's
out
cool.
of Utica, New York, which is a hospice
Hmm.
that the last place people go
Sure.
before they leave Earth. And then, you know, she got a deal with the mayor in Rome, and now they got two homes. And my daughter, she makes very good money and very happy. And all I want for my children is to be happy.
Right.
And, you know, I'm very blessed. But then again, you know, obviously their mother had a lot to do with it too. You know,
Sure.
it wasn't me. They were living with their mother, not me.
Right.
Although my son out here lived with me for a long time, and my son in Florida lived with me a period of time too. So, but you know, it takes two in a family
Sure.
to develop a child, and so I'm blessed.
Well,
So
Ori, I am just, you know, in awe basically of hearing your message and that the message you're giving. Hopefully that this gets shared out to a parent and let their children see this, and because we all need a path to follow in a positive way, and I think your story shows both sides of the tracks, and that's a powerful message. So
Thank
anything
you.
we can do to support you in helping you in your mission, just let us know, and we'll do our
Thank you
best
very
to
much.
make it happen. So
yeah.
Appreciate that. You know, as I said in my book, if I help one young man out, the book was worth it. I've helped several, and I continue to help. And I feel that's my destiny and why I was put here on earth.
you leave a legacy. You
Yeah. I
leave a
mean,
legacy.
I think it's cool that you've taken that course of action, through your books and your notoriety, and you're helping out younger people. And like Robert said, we are also blessed by your presence here, sharing your story. Thank you, Ori.
Thank
And
you.
Jay Jensen hopped in here real quick and said, "I agree with you, Tom. Thank you, Mr. Spado."
Thank
So
you, Jay.
he called you Mr. Spado too. That's funny, Jay. That's cool. But I do have to ask this one question, which I think, when you were being released, and now you're going to get out of jail, and your son came to pick you up and all that. Did you sit there and say to yourself, okay, here I am, Ori. What's next for me? What do I do? Where do I go from here? Did you have an idea what you were going to do, or were you just like,
No,
what do I do? Because
I
I
had
have no money, I have no nothing.
I got out of prison. My son and Chris Muto, they picked me up. I never forget the first stop was an In-N-Out Burger. I had my taste of real food. I didn't know if I was going to end up in a halfway house for 6 months.
Oh
That's what
wow,
I thought I had to do. And when we got to the halfway house said that I could spend my 6 months on home confinement. So
that's
I had
nice.
6 months home confinement. I lived with my son and his girl at the time. And I was allowed out a few hours a day. And, people were coming to me and wanted to do a reality show and this and that. But I was very disappointed. I expected when I got out of prison, a lot of people would be coming with envelopes stuffed with cash for me. And that didn't happen. And quite honestly, the only people that came forward with anything were my friends in London.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so what's that tell you?
Yep.
And It was my son who taught me gratitude because I was ready to put my boots back on and go out on the street.
Oh, wow.
And it was my son, Anthony, who taught me to be grateful for what I have.
Yeah.
And I never dreamed I would write a book. I've been an avid reader all my life. I am to this day. I read every day. Every night I got a book next to my bed. It take me out of the zone, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I was having dinner at the Four Seasons with my entertainment attorney. And I told him, and he looked at me and he says, Ori, I know your story. Write a book and we'll get the movie made. George, I never wrote a book. He says, find a code writer. Well, I reached out to all the writers I know, and they're all script writers.
Right.
There's a big difference between writing a script and a book. And then one day I says, how hard could this be? You got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I sat down at the computer and I just started. I was probably a little over a third away when I called my cousin back east, and a friend of ours we went to high school with was there. He got on the phone. We brought each other up to date with our life. And he said, Ori, remember Dennis Griffin? He's a big writer. And I Googled Dennis, and sure as shit, not only was he a writer, he was a writer of crime books out of Las Vegas. I got a hold of him, and Dennis basically became the editor of my book. We got the first one published. Dennis recently just passed away. That's how it all began. And I ended up, now I own half a publishing company.
Opportunities always present
and there you go. There's another revenue stream. Ding, ding, ding for Ori Spado. I mean,
but, you know, I'm a believer. Study the business. You know, I studied the publishing business. The average author will only sell 250 books in their lifetime and make an average of $500. I can tell you personally, I've done better than that in the last 10 days just for my website. Okay? So, you know, I sold thousands of books and I got a long way to go still. I go with 100,000. So.
And there's Ori's contact information, everybody, if you want to reach out to him. Ori, can I ask a question? If somebody does send you an email, will you personally answer it? I
personally answer it myself, yeah.
That's tremendous. Awesome.
Ori, I have a comment to make. I do excuse me. Besides Mark and I doing Elevate Your Props, our whole missions to help people recognize there's opportunities out there if you want to grow. So we bring people in like you that can be influencing people, maybe influence one thought, one sentence that you said could change somebody's life, right, in a very significant way. But I do a program, and I believe it's probably something you said there, is gratitude. I believe gratitude is what I call the mortar between the bricks of life. Because you can't hold a negative and a positive in the same space. And it changes perspective. And I appreciate what you said, because gratitude is a principle that can change anything in anybody's life, no matter what the circumstances. Coming out of prison, not knowing what you're going to do, but somebody turn on the light for it, be grateful, because this moment that we have is the most important thing that we have. And how we address it in life will dictate the next outcome, and the ending in our lives. So I appreciate you making that comment about gratitude. I believe it's a very powerful thing. So,
yeah.
Thank you. Mark, what, anything else?
There's a good friend of mine. I got to share this with you, Ori. This is a good friend of mine. Back in the day, Bobby Kalika. Hey, there's a name for you, right? Bobby Kalika, that's his name. We used to call him Vito. Bobby's a good guy. He worked the docks on a lot of our trade shows, and I was the sales guy, but always had to have interactions with Bobby, and quite the unique individual. And he saw you before when you were with Ken. I shared it with him, and I told him you were going to be here this evening. And so, Bobby, I appreciate you popping on here. But
Hi, Bobby.
yeah. So, it's just really cool that people know you and what you're doing out there. And I think for me, you're an inspiration because you started out again with rock bottom zero nothing, and look what you did. And you defied the odds, the age. You know, there's a lot of ageism out there, but man, you're like 30 plus out there doing what you do, man. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got a sharp wit and mind above you. I mean, and I'm impressed. I feel like I don't even scratch the surface next to a guy like you. I mean, you're just awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mark. I feel I got a lot more to offer. And, I'm not a religious guy, but I pray in the morning, I pray at night. And at nighttime, I always ask the man, give me another day. Let me help more people.
Right.
And so, as long as he keeps doing that, I'm going to keep helping people. So,
And that you're to be commended for that. Not many people would do that. I mean, you have every reason to be bitter, and you're not. You just got better. I do have to ask the people on the, I'll say the right side, if there is a right side, but people in law enforcement, how do they feel about you now when they see you, like some of the former or current FBI agents, when they're like, man, check this Spado guy out. Look what he's doing. Are they impressed?
I have no idea. I can tell you this much. I did send my book to my judge. I haven't heard back from him. Okay. And I could tell you this much. When my film is made, I'm going to be in it. I'm going to play a cameo role.
Oh, cool.
And I'm playing the judge.
This would be Judge Kogan, right? Is that his last name?
Brian Kogan. Yeah.
Yep.
And he happened to be the same judge as El Chapo.
Oh my.
And the beginning of the script of the movie begins with a conversation where I call El Chapo. So,
My goodness. Oh my. I don't know what else to ask, but to say this, would you come back again sometime so we can talk to you some more?
I love it. I really enjoy this
Yeah.
share. I love being around positive people. So anytime you gentlemen want me back, just let me know and I'll make myself available for you.
Because Tom and I can't thank the guests enough. It goes from Robert Brooker, Bobby Kalika, Jay Jensen. I mean, I could go through here. Luke hopped on here, I noticed real quick.
Is that Luke Aberley?
Yeah, Scott Ricard. Yeah, that was Luke. Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, it is Luke Aberley. I mean, there's just a whole that kid's what, 12, 13?
12 years old.
Ronnie Goodwin
Incredible.
popped on here from Connecticut. I mean, you got people from all over the place making comments to you. Gloria Brown popped on here, and she just went, wow. That was her comment. Wow. Just listening to you talk. Scott reached out and said hi to you. I mean, there's all these people. Randy Chafee said, hey, good fellas. I mean, it's just kind of cool stuff that they know who you are, what you do. And, I think it's really neat. And in your own way, Ori, you do have a PhD in life. And that you can take to the bank, my friend.
Well, thank you. You know what? I would appreciate somebody send me a degree.
That could be one of your next exploits, right? How to get degrees.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We're kidding out there if anybody needs it. Yeah, and Bobby said, Ron, he's teasing. He said, everyone needs a fixer. And he's saying that in a good way.
And Ron, you're correct. Everybody does. Okay. And as long as the fixer knows how to do it and do it with her brain,
And he says a brain is better than a gun.
you got that right, Ron. And it's the same thing that my mate Joey Pyle always said. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Well,
Oh man, we got all sorts of comment. So oh wow, I was. Yeah, Jay says I was given the 9th degree. I don't know what that means, Jay, but I'm sure Ori spent enough time in rooms with people peppering him with questions. I really don't have anything else. I just want to say thank you so much. I know Tom may have a question or two, but I'm questioned out, sir. I mean, you have filled up my cup.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
We'll have you back on for sure, Ori, sooner than later. And I'll definitely I want to reach out to you on a one-on-one. I've got a young man in New York that's creating a foundation to help youth, and I like to bounce that off you. Okay?
Beautiful. All right, give my information. Mark has my information. I'll send him my address. Okay, and then we could connect. All right.
Now that's great.
Gentlemen, this was a unique pleasure, and I really enjoyed this. And I thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to do another one. Okay, it's really nice to be able to put out positive things, and I hope I helped some young men out there today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ori.
Thank you. Ori, if you have to leave, well, I'm going to put you in the green room. I hope they were nice to you back there. Did they get you your brand of Winston's, or you okay back there? Did everybody accommodate with the M&Ms, and did you have a scotch, or what were you looking for back there? Did we not provide it for you?
No, I got everything. I got my Winston. That's all I need.
All right.
All right, Ori. Tom, you have any questions for Ori?
No, I'm complete at this moment.
If you have to leave, I'm going to put you.
No, I don't have to leave. Let me ask you a question now. Will you send this to me on Facebook that I can share?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
It's going live, and I'll resend it to you.
Oh, you already did?
Yeah, I will do that when we finish up here. You'll get it.
Okay.
I'll send you the link and everything. Tom and I are going to talk real quick. I'm going to put you in a green room, and we'll come back and chit chat a little bit. But don't take it personal. We just got to take care of some house cleaning and all that other fun stuff. Ori, thank you so much, and God bless you.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Wow, what can you say about that, Tom? I mean, that guy's a walking positive testimony of. I mean, that's if you don't have his book, guys, order it. You can get it at his website. You can get it, other ways out there, Amazon, whatever. Incredible individual, and I highly recommend you read the book because I'm rereading it again. There's just so much to it.
Yeah. It was an honor to have him on. And the wisdom and life experiences is probably the best teacher that we have. And no matter what happens in our life, we're in control. We take responsibility. He's humble at the same time, but he is strong. And I can see why he has pulled himself out from where most people don't pull themselves out in life, with less, what would you call it, issues in life, and stay stuck. So he's a great example out there. But Mark, anything else? We want to make an announcement. Who's going to be our next guest coming in?
What do I do with my calendar? Here it is, coming up. Man, can you believe that we're already into August? Let's see, and it's the 23rd, and next week
we are void. We're going to be
void.
We're just going to be chatting about some concepts that we want to bring out. Right. But the following week, September 6th, Ron Goodwin, who was
Ron Goodwin.
So I'm really excited to get to know Ron on a personal basis, hear his story, what he's done in business, because that's our whole platform, is help people understand there's options in life. And be an influence, finding the right people to circle yourself with, such as Ori. I mean, just reading his book is you change that. So, but anyway, so Ron's coming in.
Yep, he will be here the 6th of, and that's a great day for us because that's Labor Day, and that'll be fun. The
Yeah.
end of the day, and we can talk about what we did over the weekend, and I'm really looking forward to talking to Ron too because he has a very unique story to tell.
Yes. So, well, Mark, I'm complete.
Oh, well, great. I guess I'll put you back here with Ori, and should I close this out?
Close your eye, buddy.
Okay. Again,
Good
everybody,
night,
thank you
everybody.
so much, man. We appreciate you being here, and I'll share this last comment from Jay. He said, plus he knows Ginger from Gilligan's Island. That's awesome. So there you go. Ori, everybody's just keep throwing the comments. So I'll put you in the green room here, Tom, and say we'll get this thing out of here. Once again, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Tremendous guest, Ori Spado, and we were so blessed to hear his wisdom. And like I always say, let us be attentive because, man, it was just an incredible evening. And with that, I'm going to say adios, and we'll catch you next week. Same time, guys.